Hello everyone, welcome to episode 2 of BIZalum's very own podcast, Life After BIZ, What No One Tells You. I'm your host, Pranati Trivedi from the MSc Management class of 2025, and today we are joined by our BBA Finance class of 2019 alum, who's working full-time in finance and has also with his co-founder started his own business, Scentstop, Singapore's first perfume spray vending machine. So without further ado, please help me welcome Shan Yifei. Hi Yifei, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm very happy to be here to share more. Thank you.
So can you tell us a few words about yourself, just to give the audience a little bit of insight into what you do now?
Yeah, sure. So after graduating in 2019, I think like most finance students, I found a job at a family office and asset management. So I was doing more like an investment work. And since then, I've been mainly in the job of doing equity investments for about past 5 years, currently now at a Chinese hedge fund. But through the work-wise, I've also constantly tried to explore new ways to expand my life beyond just the day job. So lucky to have peers that also talk the same track, and we found out that perfume machine could be something that is interesting to venture into, and that's why last year we started doing our homework research, and afterwards early this year we launched our very few machines throughout Singapore. You might see them across CBD as well as in NUS as well.
Right, okay, so very excited to hear more about that. But before we delve into your ventures, let's do a rapid fire question first.
Sure.
If you had to describe your life post-university in one word, how would you describe it?
I would say it's unexpected.
Okay.
Because I feel like in school, a lot of things are planned for you, like the curriculum and internship and stuff. So you're just going through the process. But reality really hits you when you go out into work. Like when I graduated, I was faced with COVID. So there was also uncertainty in terms of how long my job could be.
Right.
And then afterwards, how the industry develops down the road, the work from home arrangement, etc. So the nature of what I do is also very different from what I study in school.
Right.
So I think it's always about keeping up with the needs of the job, and then upskilling yourself and make sure that you stay relevant. And all these are just something that I did not expect when I was in school.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so building on that, actually, let's rewind a bit to year one post-graduation.
Okay.
So how was it adjusting to life in university and then, like you said, the real working world?
Yeah, so I think when I graduated, the first thing I thought is like I'm already ready for the work. I know everything that there is that the job that demands, and I've done about 2 or 3 internships with different banks as well, international ones. So you would think that after 4 years of internship, you should be ready for what comes. But then you realize that actually in the real job world, the needs and demand are always changing depending on client needs and what is the current situation in the geopolitics, etc. So I guess in our line of work, unlike in engineering or medicine, we are never really fully ready for the real world. It's just have to go in with an open mind, willingness to learn and spend extra time and picking up all the necessary skills all over again. So lots of nights burn, lots of weekends studying for materials and stuff are all, it's kind of like continuation of school, continuously upgrading ourselves.
Right. So you work in the finance industry. So when someone thinks of finance, you think of performance expectations, notoriously long hours, like you mentioned, and really hard to maintain a personal well-being and personal life balance, right? So how would you say in all the years that you've been working now in this sector that you've built resilience and you've adapted to it?
Yeah, I think when you first started, I think most of the people are more overzealous. So when you're young, you tend to be willing to burn the hours. You will definitely forsake time with, say, family and friends. Right, it's very natural for fresh grads, when they want to catch up with each other, you hear some people say like, oh, I have to pull the OT, I can't meet up. I think at the early stage, everyone wants to put into their best and perform. But in the point of work-life balance, over time, you start realizing that once you get more comfortable with the pace of work, then you have a bit more time to yourself and your family or friends. And I think that's valuable. That's when you can start exploring things that you are more interested in. That's also kind of like how I start thinking about doing a side hustle. Because so in that sense, of course, at the start, you will want to allocate more time towards ensuring that you do well in the job. That's natural. But I think once you become more competent, the focus needs to then shift back towards what's a little bit more important. And in that sense, over time, your resiliency at the work should build up. You get better at what you do, and then you have more time to think about other stuff, exercising, friends and family, or even starting a family, etc.
Right.
Yeah, so I think it's natural. Most people should be able to transition naturally into this phase. Just make sure that if you are facing difficulties, don't be afraid to speak out, find friends and support, and we can, friends will always talk it out and then share experiences and see how that works.
Right. And that's a very important point, actually, and something that Gen Z, I think, is talking about a lot in terms of flexibility and prioritizing well-being, not just. So what are your thoughts on this new opinions and perspectives that have come about?
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting because at least in my industry, like investment work and asset management, I think most of the Gen Z that comes in, thankfully, are still quite hardworking and driven. Naturally, in our line of work, performance like returns on the fund is the most important performance. So unless you are naturally talented, if not, you have to put in the hard work to get returns. But I've seen my peers in other industries where the Gen Zs do prioritize work-life balance more, and hence they will actually give a bit of ultimatum and say, I'm not going to work past 7, I have my other priorities.
Right.
I think when I speak with other peers and also seniors who have, all of us been through the OT period, we think it's healthier, like they recognize what's more important. But at the same time, it makes us wonder whether how driven are they in really trying to grow fast? Because naturally, if you don't put in hours, you probably have to take a longer time to pick up the necessary skills, right? And in that case, we're not sure whether the real world has that kind of tolerance for you. So I think the ideal for Gen Zs or any future generation is to find a natural balance. If, of course, we're not trying to go beyond what you can accept, but do push yourself a bit more because this is the real world instead of just studying in schools, right? Yeah.
So double-edged sword in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. So back to finance sector again.
Sure.
It's quite a demanding role, quite a demanding sector. And yet you decided to venture into the side hustle, as you're calling it, with your co-founder. So what made you do that despite such a huge workload?
Yeah, I think because of the huge workload, that's why some of us do think about having a side hustle. Like my co-founder Zhe, one of the main driving factor was that the hours and the workload that he has was driving him to a point that his mental health might be a bit affected. So in that sense, he was thinking of whether there's actually a way out where you do something that you probably enjoy more, and yet you can build something and make it a full-time job.
Right.
So I think I can see why people who are under some kind of long-term stress might be looking for side hustle as a way to replace their full-time job. For me, it's also more of exploring beyond what I do. Thankfully, I enjoy my job a lot. But I think for most people out there, it could just be an 8 to 5, like something that puts the bread on the table, right? So we constantly have to ask ourselves, what do we like? Maybe there's a passion inside us that is waiting to erupt, And Singapore is very practical. We need money first, need to survive. So getting a daytime job makes sense. But is that going to be your end goal for your whole life? Maybe not. So I would say that most people actually do have a side hustle thought at the back of their head.
Right.
It's whether you have the courage and the willingness to just take that leap of faith and say, I'm going to try. Because if we fail, and I think there's a good chance that we might fail as well down the road, at least we try and we told ourselves there's no regrets on trying.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a very, very fresh perspective, I think, especially like you mentioned in Singapore, risk aversion is still very much ingrained, right?
Yes.
So I think what you said about trying to find passion outside of your 9 to 5, I think would resonate with a lot of our young grads when they're trying to find their way out. So what would you say, any sort of advice you would give to young grads and current students who are looking to go into the full-time route, but also maybe like you trying to find something that might just work out?
Yeah. I think definitely if you are able to identify what you want to do and like your passion is your job, you're probably one of the lucky 1 or 2% people in the world, right? Most of us are unfortunate. We have to do a job that we might or might not like, right? I remember someone told me that even the tennis player, the US tennis player, she also said that she doesn't like playing tennis, but it pays her bills, right? So and she's good at it.
Correct.
So the advice I got from my seniors and peers and mentors is that go out to do a job that you don't mind doing, like you don't hate it such that you dread going to work, but you're actually not too bad at the work and you don't mind doing it for say like 9 to 5, then do that first and then use that to build up your experience and your wealth chest, your financial insurance, and then at the side, like what we do, find out what you like to do. Like I have a peer who does marketing with MMC. So she likes to do creative stuff, right? So on the daytime job, she does marketing and at MMC, but on the weekends, she will do her own clay stuff. She'll make like earrings, rings, and cups. and she'll sell them. So
Oh,
it might not pay the bills, but it's a good start. And over time, if it slowly picks up more and more interest, maybe she can transition full time.
Right.
So I would advise everyone just be more practical. First step, we definitely try to survive
Right.
and stabilize ourselves, and then we will slowly transition towards finding out what we can enjoy.
Right. It's about maybe finding the key, the right key, the right
Yeah.
lock. You never know when
We
it's
never
gonna
know.
work, right?
If you can find it earlier, that's a good thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So now back to Scentstop. Why perfume? I find it really interesting actually, because when you think about vending machines or you
Yeah.
think about even some maybe starting a side hustle, I would imagine maybe perfume is not the first thing that crops up, right?
Understandable.
Right. So what was the thought process? How did that come up as an
Yeah.
idea?
So we definitely knew that our side hustle was something that we can't dedicate full time to. So we wanted it as much as possible to be automated. So kind of like that limits our choice that is something to do with vending machines, right? And as you pointed out, most of the traditional vending machine will either be selling products or like drinks and food and beverages. So perfume sprays is something very new. We sort of chanced upon this idea when we saw the hype sort of growing in Middle East as well as US, where there were also people trying to roll out this vending machine to target the youngsters. So we noticed that there's a trend where youngsters, number one, are probably less loyal to specific brands. They're more willing to try out a variety of
Right.
stuff, right? Because they don't want to pay for $200 a bottle of perfume and be bonded for 1 year,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
So that was a trend that's rising. And secondly, among our peers in the CBD area, we noticed that sometimes after lunch or after the gym, the perfume wears off. So when they needed to visit their clients or when to visit their friends, they wanted a touch of perfume for the rest of the day or the evening. And that solution wasn't readily available because not everyone has 2 bottles at home at the office.
Right, right.
So we thought that if we look at this situation, there might be a need in Singapore for more perfume sprays. So we do our research, we went to China to source for our provider, and we thought we'll take the plunge and try and provide this service, and let's see whether the customers respond in the way that we expect.
Oh wow, that's really interesting. Like a very specific niche, and especially I think right at the heels of the famous MRT debacle in the morning, I think there might be quite a big need for Singapore. You never know. Okay.
I think Singaporean and Asians tend to be slower in adopting perfume. It's
Right.
not so much like part of their life. But I heard from a Europe customer, because we met her at the hotel where our machine is, and she was very fascinated while we were trying to replenish the machine. And she was like, perfume is like makeup to her. She needs it every day. But when she traveled, there wasn't perfume. She didn't bring along the bottle. So she felt very naked this
Right.
period. Yeah. And she was very happy that there was a perfume beside the hotel. So that's when we realized that Asians are probably like perfume is the optional thing, but makeup is a necessity.
Correct.
Maybe down the road with young generations, they will think that perfume is also a part of their personality.
Right. So hopefully it comes back into the get ready with me toolkit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
And so looking forward then, what kind of value are you guys aiming to get into the local market?
Yeah, I think for now, given our small size, we are mainly still aiming to roll out more machines and provide this service and convenience to more people across, I say, key areas in Singapore. So like hotels, CBDs, and universities, like especially students when they're having presentations, they might need this before they
Right.
present, right? So I think that's first step. But down the road, we are actually hoping to try and develop a bit more understanding about perfumes and personality. Because as I previously said, a lot of Asians don't really link perfume to a personality.
Correct.
But actually, perfume has different scent that might be expressed different on different days. Like if today you want to be a confident woman, you might go for something that is stronger.
Correct.
But there are other days that you maybe feel a bit more laid back and chill. You want to go something that's more rosy and light. So we are hoping that our machine with the variety of perfume choices can help teach and cultivate a certain switching of personalities on the days that they want. And this is where social media plays a part, that we are going to step up our social media coverage and hope to have more videos and teaching about how perfume scent can be different under different scenarios.
So you mentioned that you started this business with you and your co-founder Zoe. And both of you, I would like to know, how do you juggle roles or decisions? Because, it's never easy to start a business in the first place.
Yes.
And then sharing it with someone else, I imagine, is also not the easiest thing to do.
Yes.
So how do you guys sort of give each other enough space to respect your ideas, but also make sure that something's done?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that last time there was someone that told me that you shouldn't ever do business with your friends because it's
Wow.
dangerous that, when things go wrong, you don't really know how to communicate across. Very thankfully, I have very mature friends and peers. So the 2 other co-founders for me, James and Zoe, we take friendship and business separately. When it comes to business, right, we have to say out what we think. So there is really nothing personal, and we are mature enough to handle it that way. And when we approach difficulties or disagreement, we try to either do a vote, because there's 3 people, so it's easier to vote that way, or we actually speak out our opinions and we discuss openly. So this comes in actually many forms, in the sense that we're deciding our strategy moving forward, deciding the product placement, etc. And even right when we took the leap of faith, there was also a little bit of uncertainty among everyone. So I think it is true that good friends wise, it's tough to draw the boundaries and stuff, but I feel like as long as you're mature enough to put those relationship aside and focus strictly on that you guys are business partners, then we can try to avoid unnecessary conflicts or emotions that get in the way, and just strictly get down to business. Yeah, so I would say thankfully that all my partners are mature enough to handle it that way.
So really important who you surround yourself with then.
Yes, I think that's very important.
Right. Okay. So like we mentioned, you're an alum of NUS, you've done a lot of finance modules. So what do you think helped you in your real world? Like what could you possibly take from the classroom that really impacted you, and then you could implement that? Anything in particular, any modules or any particular concepts?
I would say that this degree's finance is probably very generic and broad. So it lays a good foundation in letting a student know what's out there. But it's far from the reality. Like finance is very broad. Some people go into banks, and even banks, they have different departments, front, middle, and back office. I would say that finance degree cannot cover everything, and that's understandable, right? So they only cover normally things that are, I guess, a little bit more academical, such as they talk about stocks valuation, they talk about personal finance, etc. Those are enough for a foundation, but I would highly recommend that everyone should do internship and try to do broadly, in the sense, unless you really know what you want to do, and I know most finance people want to do IB, but IB is not the only job out there in finance. There's so many other jobs that also gives enough satisfaction, and you might miss it out if you don't try. So I personally had the opportunity to try broadly, and that allowed me to narrow down on what I enjoy more. So I would recommend internship is the necessary part. In terms of for my relevant role as asset management, I think one of the main modules that came out, I think most useful, is this one provided by Prof. James, called Equity Research. So it's very relevant to what I do, and he was previously a fund manager at Morgan Stanley. He as a prof was able to give you real work feedback. So those are necessary. But aside from that, I will say generally, once you step out into the real world, don't think that you are ready. You're probably okay, but you're far from what the world needs. So be humble, be open-minded. You're going to learn a lot of new skills. You're probably going to take a lot of licenses and exams. The whole process start again. Just put in the hours, put in the effort, and you should be fine.
Learning never stops.
Learning never stops, yeah.
Right, true. So any last words for our viewers, young grads, anyone? What would you say, closing statements?
Yeah, I think just enjoy school. I really enjoy my 4 years in NUS, NUS Business as well. I think the community is great. And yeah, don't fret too much about work, because you have the rest of your life to work, But you only have 4 years in school. So really enjoy your time in school. When you're in school, you might think that, the exams are bad, everything. But when you look back, there's way worse problems in real life. So enjoy your time in school. Don't fret so much about the grades and stuff. And have a good circle of friends that you can rely on. Hopefully, they can walk you through the rest of your life as well.
Right. That's a very positive note to end on. I think a lot of them will feel really energized after listening to it, right? Okay, so thank you so much, Yifei, for joining us today for the Pearls of Wisdom and the lovely conversation.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, so we've covered everything from finance to fragrance and a lot of it in between as well. And we have a lot more episodes in the run for you. So stay tuned, and you know what to do. Like and share this podcast.
And do follow us and like us on Instagram, Scentstop_SG, for more updates on our perfumes and machines.
And follow NUS BIZAlum on Instagram. And don't forget to keep an eye out for more episodes. Thank you.